Hello, everybody. How are we all today on Tasty Tuesdays? So what's your Tasty Tuesday been like, Paula?
My Tasty Tuesday has been really good. I've been creating some beautiful stickers for somebody. So getting my creation on and just making some stickers for a lovely lady to make some spray bottles for her business.
Oh, fantastic. I so had no idea that you did that.
There's many things that people don't know what I do.
Absolutely. I know the same. I know the same feeling. Let me just pop up in here that, okay. So, Paula, tell me. Which question shall we start with today? Tell me, what does spirituality, and I probably should introduce you first. The beautiful Paula Darch is an incredible healer, and she works with children and trauma and with autism and the trauma of autism and the healing of all of that. And also she deals in a lot with just the disability aspect and comes from a very heart-centered space. So hence the reason why her business is the Heart Center Academy of Healing.
That's right.
Yay!
The alphabet all in itself.
So I'd like to know, Paula, like, where did your spirituality journey begin?
Well, funny enough, it was actually my beautiful son. So my son is almost 25 years old, but he was actually seeing spirit, and he was just kept on saying to me, "Mum, there's such and such there," and what have you. And I thought, oh my goodness, I really need to help my boy to understand this. So I started to go to a spiritualist church, meditation, spiritual mentorship, all that sort of stuff with predominantly a spiritualist church. And to begin with, and then as we do in this beautiful journey, excuse me, land up meeting so many spiritual people. So it just landed up evolving. And when I started meditation, realized that I could see spirit, smell spirit, just all of the clairs. And my teacher kept on saying to the minister of the church, "She's a special one. Watch her. She's a special one." And I had no belief in myself, no self-esteem, no confidence, absolutely nothing back then. And so I really was not really sort of like getting it, I guess. But yeah, it just kept on developing more and more and more. And my grandfather had passed away when I was a teenager, and he was one of the first spirits to actually come to me, firstly in a dream. And then he would come to me. I would just be in the house, or I'd be walking and I could smell his tobacco. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking around and I'm like, there's no one here, like nobody's smoking. And I knew then that, it was that clairsentience of being able to smell. And that just kept on developing. And then all of the clairs, and then the mediumship, and spirit like to test us, I believe. And there was one occasion that I, again, was really still in the early stages, and my husband went to get money out of our bank account on the way home, and he put in to take $20 out, but $500 came out. And so he came home and he said, "You need to go to the bank tomorrow and put this back in the bank." And at the time I wasn't very well, and I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Mortgage is coming out tomorrow. This money has to come out of the bank, like it has to go back in the bank." I landed up sitting with this lady, and as I'm sitting there with this lady, I could hear this female in my hearing going, "Tell her I play with her hair. Tell her I play with her hair." And like, I hadn't even come out to anyone and told them that I was psychic clairvoyant yet. And yeah, and I just kept on hearing this, like, tell her to play with her hair. It's really, really important. Please, please, please. I didn't know how to say it. Like, it was like, how do I even say this to this woman? I hadn't even, like, I'm in a bank. Like, I was freaking out. Anyway, in the end, I kept on asking her questions because I didn't know how to broach, the question. And in the end, she was getting a bit shirty. And I'm like, okay. And I said, look, you can throw me out. You can do whatever you have to do. I said, but I have to say something to you. And I said, do you feel like someone's playing with your hair? And she's like, is somebody here? And I'm like, yes. Anyway, after like talking to her, like as soon as she said yes, she understands, the messages kept pouring out of like this female spirit. And it landed up that it was her daughter, and her daughter had actually committed suicide 6 months prior to this event. And I left there that day realizing then that this is really what I wanted to do. Be able to give people closure, like, be able to give people messages like I was able to give this mum, because she was grieving. She didn't understand why her daughter committed suicide. And, within half an hour, this mum had got all of the information from her daughter that she needed for that closure.
Wow.
And I literally left crying, but so excited all at the same time, because I'm like, oh my God, what a gift I've been able to give the mum, but what a gift I've been able to give this beautiful soul that passed over because of, not feeling like she could be here anymore. And being able to give people those messages from their past loved ones or their children that pass away, or whatever that may be. I just think how wonderful it is that we are chosen to be able to do that. And when I work with any of my clients, it's working on that soul level with them, with working on that energetic level with them, to be able to give them some information about their bodies, about whatever's going on for them that they don't understand. And I just feel so grateful every day that I can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, what an amazing welcome into the world of spirituality, like they were very kind to you. I know of plenty of people that have not had such a nice, gentle ease in.
Yeah. I mean, like, sort of, I look back on my journey now and realize how much I was in denial about my spirituality for so many years. Like, going, you sit back some days and think, oh my God, like I had got messages for people that I remember when I was a teenager getting a phone call from a friend, and she said, I'm pregnant. And I get this intuitive message, not for long. And it's like, oh my God, like, and then I freaked out. And then 2 weeks later, I had a phone call saying, Paula, I've had a miscarriage. And then I'm like, oh my God, what was that message? Like, where did that come from? Like not understanding where all of that came from. And then sort of, you do feel like you're going insane some days, because some of the messages that do come in about, visions of like, events that haven't even happened yet. And you're like, why am I seeing this? And then like, months and even years later, like, it all just happens. Like, I have gone back through my channeled messages, and the messages that I channeled in 2014 have now come through with COVID. And at the time, it didn't make sense.
Of course, it wouldn't have.
It's like, huh? What do you mean? And then, sort of when everything started in 2019, it was like, I got that message, go back to your channeled writing. And I'm like, that makes sense now.
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same. Like in the start of 2019, I had the sense that I would not be back to New Zealand. So in February I was there of 2019, and I had a sense that I would not be back for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's been over 3 years now. And
Yeah,
I'm just
wow.
like going, and normally I would be there at least once a year. So for me, like for 3 years, over 3 years, it's just like, it's funny, but I just knew there was certain things that I had to do when I was there that time that I knew couldn't wait. It was like now or never. And it was just like, yep. And even now I still don't get a sense that I'm going to be going back for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that I'll be restricted from traveling there. It's more that my energy is required elsewhere now.
Elsewhere. Yeah. Yeah. Talking about energy being required elsewhere, one of the things that Spirit are really funny with, they give me like this whole, you need to go to this place. And I'm like, so for the last week and a half, I've got the message, you need to go to the village Big W. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't know why. Like, and I'm like, can you give me a reason why? No. And today I landed up being at the village, and I just got this whole like, you need to go to Big W. And I'm like, I don't need anything in Big W. And I walked into the Big W doors, and I'm like, why am I even here? Like, and they literally just got me to walk around Big W at the village and walk back out again. I'm like, okay. But they get me to do that all the time. Like, they get me to go to this particular shop and just walk around it and then walk out. And I'm like, okay, quite clearly needed to just shift some energy somewhere, maybe. Like, there's no go buy this or go do that. It's just, you needed to go to the shop and you need to just walk around it.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, so now it's like, if I don't do it, they will bug me like they've done every single day for the last week and a half. And, as it landed up, I needed to like go see my doctor, which was at Golden Grove today in the village.
I totally hear you. My team and my body has been saying to me for the last probably 2.5 weeks, go see the stars. We have to go see the stars. We have to go out to the big open spaces where there's no city lights or anything. I have to go see the stars.
Yep.
And of course, the weather's been absolutely atrocious. So it's like, guys, I can't right now.
Like, clear the sky up for me right now so I can see those stars.
Then we'll try to make that happen. But you got to work with me a little bit here.
Like, but this is the parts of spirituality that you just go, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious. So how long has it been since you've been on your spiritual journey?
So my son would have been around about 7, and he's just turning 25 now.
Yeah, that's a little while.
It's a little while.
That's a little while.
Yep.
So in all that time, how have you developed the consciousness? How has that developed for you?
Training. I've just realized that my nice little cloth's come off, but anyway. So training.
You're in the moon, you see. I've got the stars, you've got the moon. There we go.
Right. In 2012, it was like a light switch, a light bulb really like just went bang. In 2012, all I heard was Reiki, 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 Reiki. And I'm like, okay. And I'd heard of Reiki, but it was, you need to do Reiki. And so I did. I did Reiki 1 and 2. And then the following year, beginning of the year, I did Reiki Masters. So within the year and a half, I was a Reiki Master. It then went on to other training like hypnotherapy, NLP, master prac in NLP, hypnotherapy, lots and lots of other different healing modalities, say shim, angel therapy, crystal therapy. The list, just is huge. So yeah, just I guess it's that the seeking of more knowledge and what have you. And what's been really interesting the last probably 5 years is that with all of like the different knowledge and the training and everything like that, and my guides, I've now been channeled beautiful healing modalities of my own. So I have 4 healing modalities that I've written, and they've all been downloaded by different goddesses and different places, galactic, Lemurian, Syrian, goddess Isis, a form of healing and coaching and hypnotherapy. So I think, as part of being a galactic Palladian, we are a race that collects so much knowledge, and then we then channel it into our own modalities. And so I've been really enjoying making and writing my own modalities as, the different deities have actually been downloading lots of healing modalities to me to now teach the new ways. So that's been really exciting.
Wow. That is incredible. And I fucking love that you brought that in to this conversation, because this is really required right now. As you'll be quite aware, the old ways of doing things, even the old ways of doing spirituality, they're no good anymore.
No, they're not.
Like they have had their place, and I'm so grateful for that. Because if they hadn't existed, then we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Exactly. Yep.
And the fact that you have enough courage and trust in what your abilities are, you're now able to intuit these things. And I'm just, thank you. Thank you from the community. Thank you from the planet. Thank you from this space of
thank
the
you.
courage to actually do that.
It has been a challenge to do it, to be honest. Sort of gaining that confidence to write them, to put them out there, and everything like that. Like, sort of when you're given these beautiful healing modalities from, goddess Isis and the Syrians and the Lemurians and, all of these different beings, you kind of like at the beginning you're gifted them, but then you're like, well, who am I to teach that? Who am I to share that? Like, so you have to, like, I've had to overcome that. And the Lemurian healing modality I've had for 3 years, and I've sat on it for 3 years, and it was only 3 weeks ago that I finally actually wrote it and advertised it to start teaching it, and I'm teaching that for the first time on the 9th of July.
Congratulations!
Thank you. But yeah,
while we're talking about that, how can people come along to this? How are you interacting with?
So they're all events on my Facebook page. So on the Facebook page that's scrolling down the bottom here, on the event section on my Facebook page, they are all there. And if you can't find them, please let me know, because a couple of people have said that they are not seeing events on Facebook pages at the moment. So it's very interesting. So the 3 new healing modalities are the Healing Tree of Life, which is a 2-day coaching and healing process. So it's actually a 4-step healing process. The Golden Thread of Light is the goddess Isis and the Syrian with the Syrians. That's I think a 2-day as well. And then the Lemurian Seed of Light activation is a 1-day course as well, and that's coming up. That's coming up in July, and then I think the other ones are coming up in August. So they are all on my Facebook page on my events section. So yeah, if you want more information on any of them, please send me a message as well.
I hope everybody watching now and into the future gets onto these, because like seriously, they're making my body tingle.
Yeah, they're next level. Like, you know, sort of we've gone through that whole, you know, the Reiki energy, and, you know, we've gone through all of those different things, but these are, so the Lemurian seed of activation, it's actually done through crystals, Lemurian crystals, and a whole heap of other crystals that are gridded all the way around the body and on the body.
Oh wow.
And what you actually do as the healer is you actually press on the chakra, and there's certain words which are the activation words. And you press on the different chakras and you say these activations, and what it does is it unlocks all of that ancient knowledge that's actually been trapped within the chakra, and so it all just pours out. And I've had 4 people speak light language from the activations, and everything. It's just huge. I just love it. Like, and the goddess Isis, which is the other one, the goddess Isis with a Sirius, that's a golden thread of light. And again, it works through chakras. Each chakra has got a picture that you get a card with. You show your client it. And the chakra has got golden threads in the chakra that are all the old stuck patterns, beliefs, everything from ancient time, all space, dimension, and time, and that wraps around chakra, and then goddess Isis pulls it out. It again, huge. Like the shifts that my clients have had with these like activations are just absolutely massive. They're just such beautiful. Yeah, I just love them.
Absolutely. And I just wish to take this little sweet moment to say hello to Brooke and thank you for sharing. Hello to Angelita and thank you for sharing. And hi to Carly. And I'm sure Carly's out there sharing stuff too, because she often does. So thank you guys for joining. And if you have any questions for Paula, please pop them up in the chat there so we can ask Paula, because we love interactions with our audience. Oh my goodness, Paula. I had no idea we were going to go there.
Neither did I.
How does it get any better?
I know, right? What else is possible?
Yeah. Are you going to be, thank you, Carly. Are you going to be doing any of your courses or classes online in the future, or is it just in person at the minute?
Right now they are in person because they're quite in depth. There's one that, like, some of the theory can be done online, but the actual healing side of things, I like to actually show people how it's done in person. And because we are actually working on such deep-seated emotions and deep-seated, you know, learnings and wisdom, it can actually be quite sensitive and be quite emotional as we're releasing it. And I really want to be able to be beside somebody as as they're actually doing that. So then I'm showing them how to, like, you know, move through that for their client, because all of these courses are to teach people how to practice them and then take them into their own practices. So at this stage, it's all in person in Mawson Lakes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's Mawson
like
Lakes
to travel
in Adelaide.
Yes, but I would like to travel with them. So if anyone would like to learn them, one of the things I would love to do, and that is actually to travel and actually take these healing modalities rural and, you know, anywhere really. So
let's get Paula around the world, shall we?
I want to go around the world. Around the world with my healing modalities.
Oh, so Carly just wants a quick refresh on what courses you're doing.
So the Healing Tree of Life, which is a 2-day 4-step healing process. The Golden Thread of Light, which is with the goddess Isis and the Star of Sirius, and the Lemurian Seed of Light activation.
Here we go. Thanks, Carly. That's a nice little refresh. So we sort of have gone a bit of a deviation off of, you know, talking about the autism and the trauma and stuff. So let's bring it back to that. And I would like to know, yeah, I know, right, Carly? She said she's just like, oh, wow, they sound fantastic. And I completely agree.
Yeah, they are.
So your son, you said your son has autism, correct?
So he has undiagnosed autism,
Okay.
but my son has, from a very early age, my son went through trauma. So my son was abused at the age of 3, quite severely, and that onset the trauma, PTSD, depression, and the onset of a lot of diagnosis: ADD, OCD, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, plus all of the mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD. And through our journey with all of these diagnoses, what I found was that every time that he was diagnosed with something else, he became more of that diagnosis. He was living to the diagnosis. And as a mum, I felt like I had completely lost my son. And so what I realized, not until quite a few years ago, which I've actually just finished writing a book about, and that is that I was grieving for my son. And what I've realized working with parents that have children with disabilities, as soon as a child is diagnosed with a disability of something, the child is quite often in the room when they are being diagnosed. So they feel that they then have to live to that expectation. They have to live to whatever that diagnosis is.
Mm-hmm.
And that can quite often set off a series of trauma in itself, because they then are being told they're an identity that they don't actually feel like they match to. So they start to go through the identity crisis. And that is then the onset of anxiety, depression, and a lot of other things, can be eating disorders, so on and so forth. So what my passion is to, when I see families, then I ask that the child not be with the parent while they discuss what is going on with the child, because the child doesn't need to be there. And then when the child or youth come and see me, then I'm not treating them as the diagnosis. I am treating their unconscious, subconscious, and their soul. So going deep into who they are and supporting them in finding themselves again after their diagnosis. So supporting their emotions, supporting their regulation, if they've got anxiety, depression, supporting them through, whatever they're going through, giving them strategies to be able to support that. So it's just, there is just so much within the society's belief that we have to label all of these people, and I say, fuck off. And one of my biggest things is get out of the box. And sort of as women, and as men, that have been diagnosed with a series of different things as well, then we go through a whole grieving stage, that we're grieving for that identity, we're grieving for that part of ourselves that has been told that it's something that it's actually not. And then we've got the whole energy point of view where a diagnosis is concerned as well. And from an access bars, access consciousness point of view, which I absolutely love working with these beautiful beings. I call them transcendental beings, because an autistic being is actually not, that society calls it autism. I call them transcendental, because what they actually are is a galactic being in a human body, and they don't know how to fit their high frequency in this 3D body. Hence why they have so much sensory going on. It's why they're very overwhelmed, why they're, why they really struggle, because they're actually high frequency. Like some of the beautiful beings that I've been working with are from like the 13th, 14th, up to the 16th dimensional reality, and the dimensions of that place. And you're asking for that dimension to fit in this little tiny 3D body. So what I then do is I support that frequency in the body, and then I stabilize it.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. I can tell that there's a lot of people in the chat right now going, oh yeah, I love this. This sounds great. Angelita was asking about your son and asking, when was he diagnosed? At sort of what ages was he diagnosed with all those other bits and bobs going on?
Yeah, so first diagnosis of ADD, ADHD, and ODD was 5. He was abused when he was 3.
Yeah.
Yep. And first diagnosis, and it was the school. It was, and he wasn't ADD or ADHD. He was a spiritual child, and this is the thing that has blown me away so much too, and that is that when we look at a ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism, it's actually, number one, they are a spiritual being in a physical existence of body, and they're trying to cope with that energy field. The other thing about them, and that is that they are actually picking up 8,000 miles of energy, people's emotions, people's feelings, people's senses, and everything like that. And then we're asking for them to sit in a classroom when they're hearing, they're seeing, they're hearing, they're sensing, they're feeling everything of that school and then some. And it's like, hang on a minute. And this is where, like, for me, it's like, that's why my thing is, I want to break the rules of this. I want to break the rules of autism. I want to break the rules of, ADD, ADHD, and OCD, and actually start to teach parents, teach teachers, schools, what's actually going on for these bodies and to how to support them rather than label them and go, you're wrong, because there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't know how to cope with what's going on.
Absolutely. And I know in the work that I've done with, I'm going to say autistic kids.
Yes. Yep.
Because I don't like talking about them like that either. I came from a background well before I did my 7 years in disability and before my 4.5 years in children's service, like in childcare. I actually spent some time in an adult disability centre.
Yep.
And the philosophy there was, we do not look at people with their disabilities. We look at what their abilities are.
Awesome.
We work with them within their range of abilities.
Yeah.
We don't look at them for their disabilities. And that forever just stayed with me. So, and I know that the time that I spent working with kids that had various ranges of abilities, they tended to specialize in something. There was something that would always grasp them, and it was just like, that is the thing. And yet in our society, there's this big thing of like, well, because they've got a specialization in, say, trains, for example, they're not interested in sport, or they don't do well in sport, or they don't do well in this subject or the subject. That makes them lacking in some regard. And it's like, no, not at all. What you have to do is reformulate how you're going to teach your lesson to that kid within the scope of their speciality. So if you look at trains, for example, their attention, their ability to retain attention on that subject is infinite.
That's right. Yep. And so, this is where, like, Yeah, so I have 3 children of my own, but I also worked in childcare. I worked in before and after school care. I worked in disability services, disability schools, and then I was an SSO for 17 years working with special needs children. And so, when you work with these beautiful beings, and and then you have 2 of your own, this is where you kind of go, hang on a minute, society, what's going on here? Like, you're not looking at the beautiful person that is inside this body. You're not looking at them at all. You're looking at the disability of what you're labeling them to be. And then is there any wonder why we've got all of these beautiful children that are, have got these behaviors and everything like that? Because they're being told that that's who they are. So then they're just living up to the expectation of what they're being told that they already are. And it's like, yeah, so I had to come out of the education department because I started standing up for my children that I was working with, and I got told to shut up. I got in trouble many, many times because I could see the trauma in these children, and they were just sending them away to B field, and they were sending them off to special, and everything like that. And I'm like, can you not see what is happening for this child? They're just naughty. No, they've got trauma, and it's like they wouldn't look at it. And I'm like, I'm out. I can't do this because, I was the one that was getting in trouble for supporting these children, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And as a SSO, you're not even allowed to go near them. Like, you're not allowed to consult them. You're not allowed to, it's like when you've got this little one crying and you can't even touch them to say it's okay, or console and stuff like that. And it's like, where's that sense of compassion gone in our system?
It's not there.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
So I started a business where I can nourish and support and care and do what I love.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carly said they aren't even allowed to hug children anymore.
Nope, we're not.
It's ridiculous.
We're
Absolutely.
not allowed to, and even in a childcare centre, you're not allowed to console or hug a child that is. So even the newborn babies now, they're actually in bouncers or something like that. You're not allowed to pick them up and hold them anymore.
Whoa.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not in that industry anymore and haven't been there for the last 7.5 years, nearly 8 years now.
Yeah.
But quite clearly, that's a big change because I was reminded of there was one centre that I worked at that no longer exists, and it had a lot of African immigrants come through, ones that had spent time in the camps and things like that.
Yeah.
And you don't know what trauma they've been through. And these little ones, they don't have the words to be able to describe it. But there was this one little boy who really struggled to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And he would be bouncing around the room until everybody else was done. And then it was like, when he did go to sleep, he was out to it. And he was gone until everybody else had woken up and gone out of the room. It was this one day, he'd woken up, but he was obviously having a little bit of, I would say, PTSD moment.
Yep.
And I had him up in my lap. I was Cert 3, so I was just an assistant for those of you that aren't in Australia.
Yep.
And so I was assisting the team leader to get the last of the children up and out so that they could go for afternoon tea.
Yep.
And this little boy was the very last one, and he was sort of groggy, but he was really tearful. And he was preschool, so he was 4 years old, so he had the words there. And he was on my lap, and he was this close to having a breakthrough, to letting me know what was going on up in here.
Yeah.
And my team leader came in and said, I need you out the back.
Yeah.
I said, can you give me 5 more minutes, please? He's just about to have a breakthrough. And she goes, no, I have to have you out the back now.
Oh, God.
Said,
Yeah.
You know, because it was like he just required that. I could tell it was right there on the edge.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right there. And I could like tell if he was allowed that space to just let it out,
Yeah.
he would probably sleep time from there on out would be absolutely such a different place for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, his safe place was taken away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah. Me too. Which is why I've opened my healing center so that children and parents have a safe place to come. They can come and just be themselves. They can cry if they need to. They can yell. They can scream. Like whatever they need, they're there to be supported in that.
I absolutely love that. And Jolita was just saying it hits home. As a child, she was labelled as slow, but what was going on was that she was sensing everyone around her and was still am emotional. It was hard to learn for a 7-year-old. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I can relate.
And I was exactly the same. Like, doing what I do, I have realized how much on the spectrum and ADD, ADHD, OCD, if they want to label me and everything, I know that's, where my struggles have been. And, I didn't have any support, or anything like that. And even my boys, my youngest one, he's now 15, and I've been able to find him a trauma school, and now he's flourishing, but in mainstream school, he the anxiety and depression got so severe last year, being in the mainstream where it was just they weren't supported. So it's really sad that society still is not seeing beautiful beings, and the trauma that the education department is creating for our children is just horrific. I'm seeing 5-6-year-olds wanting to commit suicide because of school. 10-year-olds with anorexia because of being bullied at school, and nothing being done about it. It's like something has to change. Something in this world has to change. And I think that part of my role in this world, with everything that I have been through with my boys, and also as an educator in the system, is to start speaking up about it and, just saying, hey, this isn't okay. This is not serving our children. And, one of the things that happens when our children are going through crisis, and that is we as parents go through crisis. So, for me, it's so important to support the family, and, especially the mums, because they seem to, wear the brunt of the children's outbursts when they get home from school.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know that happens a lot in all areas of disability. There's so much time and energy focused on the person with the disability, if we call it that.
Yep.
The special abilities.
Yes.
That the rest of the family, especially that main support person, gets forgotten about.
Yeah.
And it's like they're struggling emotionally, mentally, physically, and until they get to a point where they're almost breaking down themselves, they will not get any help.
Yeah, and that was where I broke, and that's where I realized that I needed help. I was going through, my youngest one was always sick. We were always in hospital. My eldest one was, struggling with his PTSD, depression, anxiety, plus everything else that he was going through. And I was just not coping at all. Like, sort of I look back and go, oh my God, like I can see how depressed I was. And this was my breaking point. And that was, I was at tipping point and I had the boys in the car. And I literally had the wheel and I was going to drive off the cliff with the boys in the car. And I had it all planned. I had it all in my head, how I was going to do it, when I was going to do it, and even to the moment of actually doing it. And then I had the beautiful words from my spirit guides going, don't you fucking dare. You've got too many things in this world to do. Go home and, and everything. That was my turning point, because that was when I realized that I couldn't save my son, but I could save me. And that was really, really hard, because, sort of all I wanted to do was save him. I wanted to save him from his torment. I wanted to save him from his pain. But what had happened was that I had completely and utterly forgotten how I was, I was suffering severely with PTSD from what had happened to him. And, my own guilt and shame and blame and, so many emotions. But I hadn't ever looked at that, because I was just looking after him and his needs, that I had completely neglected my own. And that was when I went, oh my God, like I've got to save myself. How can I save myself? And, that's where a whole heap of like other training came in, like, Reiki came in, healing came in, like, I went and had healing. I went and had trauma therapy, like, and yeah, like the more that I admitted to myself, and I think this is where as mums we really struggle, because it's like we don't want to admit that we're struggling, because we are so much into our children and their support that we completely and utterly neglect ourselves. So for me, it's so important to look after mum, which is why I do the women's empowerment retreats, because that's a way that mums can actually come on those retreats and find that power back. They can heal from whatever they've been going through emotionally, and, let that go in such a beautiful, supported environment to release that, release that pain and that hurt and everything. And just in this beautiful, beautiful location of the Murray River.
Excellent. When's your next one?
July the 22nd, I think.
Ooh, a month away, a little bit under a month away.
Yeah, so that's also on the events on my Heart Centre Academy of Healing Facebook page. So that's Women's Empowerment Retreat.
Excellent. I hope that the mums who have similar situations to what you've been talking about tonight really get onto that, because it is so important to take care of yourself. It's that whole thing we're told time and time again, you can't, if you're on the airplane, you got to put your own mask on before you put anybody else's. And yet it is in stark contrast to this society's way of traditionally traditionally implanting in us and conditioning us to absolutely look after everybody else before ourselves.
Absolutely.
So it's so hard, because you're literally battling against generations of conditioning. And like I'm so grateful that there are incredible beings like you out there that are supporting these mums with these special children, and like these incredible light beings who are in that transitionary phase of trying to figure out how to make this work.
How does this even, like, and I guess that's what it is. Like, it's, how do we how do we fit in like everything else, like, you know, sort of, and this is, you know, so many mums have said to me, oh, support my child, and I'm like, yep, I'm happy to do that, but I also, you need to know that I'm also here to support you when you're ready. You know, I won't force anyone in having any treatment, but I always let them know that, you know, it's really important that we as mums have the support so that we have the energy and we have our cup full so that we can keep giving, because you know that beautiful old analogy, you can't give from an empty cup, but as carers we do every day. Every day.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing Carly's asking there if you do mum and children, like retreats for mum and children together.
So that is something that I've been looking at doing. Yes, definitely. Yep.
So, and also I would like to just extend this out to all women, whether it be Paula's retreat or my retreat that's coming up at the end of the year in November. These retreats that are just for you are very important.
Yeah, very.
Because you really, truly do have to nourish and nurture you as the individual. You have to find you. And this is what I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, is a lot of beautiful, amazing mums who are going, I just don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And
because
these
you lose your identity.
Exactly. And these retreats are the spaces where you can find that again. So then you've got that confidence to stand up for your children. You've got that confidence to stand up for yourself. You've got the energy to do both with so much more ease.
Yeah.
And that's why these moments away from your children are so fucking important. Away from your partners, away from your family, away from, you know, all of that. I mean,
away from society, like just away, like where, you know, it's really about, in a way, escaping for a little while to actually bathe in the beautiful energy of other women.
Yeah.
Because that's what a retreat does. Like, retreats just...
Yeah, absolutely. And that nourishing and nurturing that is able to be created in that space. You just can't get it if your kids are running around. You just, or your husband's glancing over your shoulder, or, you know, it's just not possible.
No.
So I'm curious, if you could sit in next to any person on a park bench for an afternoon, and it was a beautiful day and it was just the right temperature and there were no mosquitoes or ants about to bother you, who would that person be?
My granddad. Yeah, definitely my granddad. My granddad actually helps with the women's retreats. He was a psychic medium, but my nana forbid him to be that. And so I think he lives a little bit through me, and he's definitely one of my spirit guides. He supports me with so many things, but one of the things that he absolutely loves, and that is supporting the women on the retreats.
Oh, what a beautiful masculine man. Oh,
he's just, and I would love to sit on that bench with him and just ask him so many questions. It would definitely be my granddad.
Yeah. Oh, you speak to my heart, because my granddad is the same, you know.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about, you know, smelling his tobacco, I was like, I get the same, but it's not with tobacco. It's with CRC and linseed oil.
God.
Those are the smells of my granddad. So it's like, hi, granddad. Yeah. Nice to see you. Yeah. Nice to smell you.
Nice to smell you. Well, my nana passed away quite a few years ago as well now. My nana lived in my nana for the last probably 10, 15 years lived in a nursing home. And she had a catheter bag. And so every time you open the door, all she smelled was urine. And the
Right.
first time that my nana came to visit in spirit, that was the smell I got. And I'm just like, oh, Nana, can you change that now? Like, please change that. And I just said, can you change it? Like, just show me something else. Smell, I don't care. Just please, like, anything. So, yes, one of the disadvantages of being clairsentient is the smells you smell.
Yes, absolutely. I was doing a reading for someone online the other day, and all I could smell was dog fart. And I was
Oh,
like, oh man, is your dog just farting? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, dude. Like, I don't have any like cats or dogs here, so it was like, and it certainly wasn't me.
yeah, yeah. And it's just like, oh, really? Okay, can you change that now?
Yeah, that's enough of that smell. So, just before we round up, I would love to know, speaking to those who are out there, because you've been in the spiritual journey for, 20 blah, 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 blah years. I would love to know what sort of top 1 or 2 tips would you give to somebody who is, because there's a lot of people in that awakening space at the moment. What would you suggest?
Meditate. The key to connection, especially in the beginning, it's actually funny because this is a message for me just as much as what it is for everybody else. I forget to meditate. Like so it's like, I don't know, I've just forgotten to meditate. So this is a message for me too. The key when I was starting was meditation, like that connection to your breath, connection to your own body. And one of the things, and I guess that is one of the things that I learned so much later in life in this was to connect to myself before I was searching to connect with spirit and anything else. I really wish that I had been given that wisdom because I was searching on the outside of me before I learned to search on the inside of me.
Yes, I absolutely 100% agree.
Yeah.
Learning to love this.
Yes. Yep. Talk to this. Yep.
The hardest part of my spiritual journey.
Yep. 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 Like talking to yourself. Like one of the things that I love about, again, access consciousness, and that is body whispering and actually speaking to your body every day, like, good morning, body. What would you like to wear today? What would you like to eat today? Like, just, again, like, I didn't learn that until so much later in life. Like, I mean, it's only really been in the last year to 2 years since I've learned access consciousness did I even really speak to my body. And I was speaking to my spirit guides and I was speaking to everyone else, but I wasn't speaking and I wasn't connecting enough to myself. So it's been about especially in the last 12 months, again, really learning to connect back to myself, connect back to my body. What do I need? What does my body require of me? Rather than looking for the answers from spirit.
Absolutely. And I find it really fascinating when you come across people who have been doing the work for a long time, and there's still sometimes that element where they're still not connected to their femininity, they're not connected to their masculinity, or they've got an over abundance of one or the other. And it's like, that's really fascinating. And yet, if they're truly talking and being in connection with this beautiful vessel, that naturally kind of balances out, or it's like it becomes very obvious when the balance is out.
Yes, absolutely.
and you can sort of more finely tune. It's kind of like overcorrecting in a car, you know. It's like you kind of, when the balance goes out, it's almost like I'm going way over here for a second.
Yeah, like it was really interesting. Like I had these beautiful words of wisdom by my spiritual team last year, the end of last year. And that was, your body is your house and temple. Your body is also the vehicle of your creation. So you look after your house and you maintain it. You look after your car and you maintain it. So why don't you do the same thing to your body? Why do you wait for your body to break before you maintain it?
Just gonna let that sink in for the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah. 100%. It was like I had a very similar message going back a couple of years ago, well before COVID actually, of do you treat your body as if it's your best friend?
Yeah.
Do you speak to your body as if it is your best friend? Because if you don't, would you remain friends with you?
Nope.
And it's kind of like when you start to wrap your head around that, and then you start seeing all the ways that your body is not your body, your life is in dysfunction.
Yeah.
And you realize, when you start realizing that all of those things are connected, and how you speak and think about this is absolutely flows out and filters out through your relationships, through your money flows, through your business, through everything. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I just thought I was judging my belly. I didn't realize that judging my belly fucked up my money flows.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, better turn that on its head quick smart, you know.
Yeah. It's, you know, and this is a thing, like, you know, sort of, again, like we forget that the vehicle that we have been given in this lifetime holds everything.
It does.
This is our house. This is our vehicle. Yeah. So we've got to treat it the same as we would our car and our house. Yeah. This is all we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that nourishing and nurturing, we can then give even more to those around us. And that's the biggest takeaway, you know, with all of your work, especially with the trauma, on the trauma side of things. It requires a lot of energy.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It certainly does. But, you know, sort of it's an energy that I love to exchange. Because one of my biggest things about going through the journey that I did with my son was that I felt so alone on it. And so when I created the Heart Centre Academy of Healing, it was a creation of a safe place where people can come so they don't feel alone like I did, so that they are heard, they are listened to, they are respected. They have a place where they can just come and sit and just be if they need to be. And that's enough.
Do you do any online sessions with people?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So the only thing that I don't offer online is my courses. My courses I like to do in person, but because, again, I love that energy. I love that building that energy. But all of my healings, my readings, my coaching and everything like that can all be done online. With children on the spectrum, I can do distant sessions of healing with them. So all it requires is a photo, and I actually do the session through photo. I also offer NDIS support. So if a child or an adult has funding with NDIS and they are self-managed or plan managed, then they can also come and see me under their funding.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, it's great. It just something that I've just discovered, and that is that if an adult on NDIS has a funding under the umbrella of social engagement. And also their daily living, they can actually, depending on their plan manager, but I've actually just had 2 people like speak to me recently, and they could actually use their NDIS funding under their social engagement for retreats and workshops.
Oh, well done. That is so cool.
Yeah, so that's another avenue where, like, if there was an adult on NDIS, they could actually speak to their provider and myself, and we actually work out how, like, with their plan, how they can actually come and do a retreat or a course with me under their funding.
Yeah. Wow.
It's great.
I know. There's a lot of happy smiley faces over in the chat with that news. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on to chat, Paula.
Thank you.
We went all sorts of places today. That was so cool. Love it. Once again, just a reminder to everybody, all of Paula's connection points are all down in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Paula, please go through to the Facebook page or through the website, or I can't remember what the third one was. As Paula said to me before the show started, the best way to get in touch with her is definitely through Facebook land, and she can get back to you a lot more quickly that way. So yes, thank you again for coming on to play with us today. I'm so grateful. And I look forward to hearing more about your retreats and your courses and things that you're offering. It's so exciting.
It is exciting. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thanks to everybody that's on the chat. I can't see you, but hi, thank you so much. Yes. So, and yeah, like if you want to ask any questions after today and what have you, then yeah, just reach out and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you for Find You Fridays on Friday at 8 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.